Hello, everybody. Greetings to all. Welcome to the Snooker Hall podcast. I'm Dan Murren. The World Championship is here. 32 of the finest players in the world will compete to lift the most prestigious trophy in snooker. The final, the showpiece event, will take place on the 3rd and 4th of May in the Crucible Theatre, a venue which carries so much history in this sport that we love so much. So many historic moments have taken place in that arena. So many players have strived for glory under that roof, but few have achieved it. Among those who have not yet achieved it are some debutants in 2026. Their names will be added to the famed Crucible Almanac. And I'm happy to say that the man behind the Crucible Almanac is here with me today. Chris Downer, it is a pleasure to welcome you to the Snooker Hall podcast.
Hello, Dan. Thanks very much for inviting me. How are you all doing? Looking forward to it, I expect.
I'm really looking forward to it. I thought qualifying alone was fantastic, and I think the main event will just be even better.
The 50th Crucible, of course.
It is the 50th, yeah, not the 50th anniversary. Or is it, though? It depends, because I remember hearing this debate about...
It'll be, next year will be billed as the anniversary, won't it?
So I remember a story about WrestleMania, and it was 24, and they said it was... WrestleMania 25 was the 25th anniversary, but
of course the
year
first
before.
World Championship was in 1927, so we would be celebrating the 100th if that were the case, and nobody said anything about that, I don't think, so
Well,
I think we'll leave that till next year.
Snooker didn't exist before the Crucible, so it's, God, that's a controversial. I might get cancelled for that. But yeah, you're looking forward to it?
Yeah, definitely, yeah. Some interesting prospects in, the first round and the second, aren't there?
Some potential matches in the second round. Well, potential, if they win. Bonnie versus John Higgins, I believe.
I believe so, yes.
And Zhao Xintong versus Ding Junhui. That could be, if they both win.
Yes.
Yeah. That should be good. Yeah. Are you going to any of the early sessions?
Yeah, so I'm there the first weekend, so Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. So, yeah, they're the first 3 days, yes.
The vibe around the city, so even for those early round matches, okay, maybe some of them are not blockbuster Hollywood matches, but Rob Walker, when he's doing his introductions, I've forgotten who said it, but they said Rob Walker makes an effort every single time because there is the possibility that there's someone in that audience, and I say very strong possibility, that somebody is in the audience for the first time, and it may be their only time.
For the first time, you're probably. I mean, I almost certainly, I would have thought.
Yeah. But he owes it to them as well. It's not just the people who go every year to every session, if that is even possible. Right. But he owes it to them as well. And I agree, it's a good. Yeah, it was a really good point. Maybe it was David Hendon who said that. But no, I agree completely. But that
he's fabulous. I mean, even like when you see him in the pub in the evening or just wandering round between sessions, on his way into the building, he's exactly the same, and he's got so much time for everybody, and he's all, unmistakably him. But I mean, he's just got that. He's just that. It's not put on stage. That is him. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of work that is put on for the stage, like working out what words to say and a bit of the history and all the things. But and you see that. When he comes in before the actual introductions, which are actually broadcast, the bits that he does before that, when he pops up like 5 minutes before and says, this is what's going to happen, and he says, this is going to be, and remember, he may be 12-4 down, but remember, and he's had a fantastic season, remember when he got to the final in blah, 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 and all these dates come off the top of his head, like he absolutely knows them, and he's not reading off a card at that point, he's just talking to those that have assembled, and absolutely brilliant, really, yeah.
He's a pro. I remember I was at one of the events last year in 2025, and there was a technical issue before the session. And they had to reset the scoreboard, and that took about 15 minutes. But for those 15 minutes, he kept people engaged. He was reciting these facts about Neil Robertson, and he's won this tournament, but he hasn't been in this kind of final for this many years. But he knew a lot about snooker.
And it's all just completely off the cuff when it needs to be, isn't it? Yeah.
When it needed to be. It's all well and good rehearsing 17 times, but if you could just do it, boom, off the cuff, there is a skill to that, and there was no or minimal awkward silence, and he just get a kid out, and the kid plays a shot on the table, and it was a good way to keep people from not getting frustrated, but
to keep them occupied.
Yeah, it's you don't want that kind of negativity going through the arena before the match. So he did really well there, and to see it firsthand. Not many could do that, I think. He's a pro. He is a pro, yeah. But I love segues. I say it in every episode. I love segues. That leads me on to a potential conspiracy theory that I will share with you now, and I'll share with the listeners. There was before the future of the Crucible or the World Championship at the Crucible was confirmed, there was, I think the year that it really impacted the tournament most was 2024. That's when there was most talk about it. But it just so happened that Rob Walker started calling the Crucible the Cruce. And I heard it sneak out once during the interviews with the winners on Judgment Day. And I don't like it. I don't like it being called the Cruce. But my conspiracy theory is this. I don't think it carries weight, but I'll share it anyway. Was Rob Walker in on it to move the championship from the Crucible? And by calling it the Cruce, he is subliminally devaluing the name of the Crucible. And then we'll be so sick of hearing the word Cruce, 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 that we'll be grateful that it actually leaves. A bit far-fetched, or is that... What do you think that
well, you were
be?
right about not having much mileage. I don't think there's much in that, and they left it there anyway, so that sort of disproves the point, doesn't it?
Yeah. I admit, it's a bit of a stretch. It is a stretch, I'll admit that, yeah. But, obviously, with the Crucible, you are behind the Crucible Almanac. How did this begin? How did this concept start?
How did it begin? It began with the fact that in the mid-90s, I suppose, up to about the mid-90s, I suppose, when tobacco sort of sponsorship and that sort of thing became seriously frowned upon, you had things like the Rothmans yearbook and the Benson and Hedges yearbook, not just in snooker, but in other sports. I'm sure there was probably one for Formula One, and there was one for probably all sorts of sports, and they stopped doing them, and they updated every year basic things, and then they stopped doing it, and I had sort of just written in pencil in whatever the last one that I got was, updating things. So Steve Davis is now, won 17 matches and lost 7, whereas previously it was whatever, and then these books never continued, so I sort of just put it together a bit amateurishly, really, and it just sort of grew from there. And then I've added more and more things. And then as technology, back in like 1990, there was no such thing as Excel. But probably offices had it, but I certainly didn't. And then so as it's become more possible to input and calculate more things, I've added more things to it. So you go from the basic things like Steve Davis has won so many matches and lost so many to completely banal, dark, as David Henton calls them, dark stats, which are a bit marmitey, but some people do love them, and Dave is one of them. To be fair, he's spouted out a few of them in commentary I've heard over the last week in the qualifiers, and so it just came from that really, and then it's a bit of a one-way street because I wouldn't be allowed to stop doing it now.
Yeah, there's kind of pressure on you. Well, I know you got a name check on commentary during the week.
Yeah, a couple of times I heard it. Yeah.
But it's how, for those who don't know, how big is this almanac? How many pages?
It's slightly abridged from last year. Ran to 318, I think, A4 pages, which includes the full Crucible World Championship scores from the very beginning, not just the Crucible. So there is a sort of appendix, which is almost as big as the not appendix, whatever you call that, the main bit, I suppose. So yeah, but I mean, it's got. I mean, literally, I've sort of fished around, and some people contact me and say, "Oh, it'd be interesting to know about such and such and such and such," and blah blah blah. And I think, oh yeah, I could probably work that out. I could probably put that in or reference in some. I think not much, to be honest with you, but some I think. Oh, that's pushing the bounds of relevance slightly. But I've got a very high tolerance where relevance is concerned, so I'll tend to put any old thing in. Yeah.
Like snooker fans know of the Crucible Almanac, but for a while I thought it was by invitation only. I thought it was for
no, I'm
journalists so they could research.
It's by if you make an effort to find out my details, you can easily contact me and you can ask to be put on the list to be on the next print run. So I'll be doing the next one obviously after the tournament's over. I was horrendously delayed by things this year, which is why it was a much smaller run than usual because I basically ran out of time. But I'm going to be back to normal, so I'm hoping that it'll be ready by around sort of Christmas time, fully updated for 2026. So anyone can contact me and ask to be put on the list to know when it's ready.
And that will be 50 years of Crucible
will
history.
Be, won't it? Yes, so that will be nice, as we said,
half a century.
That will be 50 years.
Yeah. So it might be a good one to get. Rather than the 47th or the 33rd edition. You're getting the 50th year, so you've got a half century of history there. Might be a good idea. Good timing, yeah. But if the World Championship had moved away from the Crucible, what would you call it?
Well, there was the dilemma. Yeah, I mean, that was... it was a dilemma. I don't know what the answer would have been, but...
it's tough.
There would have been something. I don't know. It would have been a bit of a shame for somebody that perhaps, if it had left, to have been the first person that won the championship, maybe not at the Crucible, who had also never actually played at the Crucible. But a bit of a shame. I mean, like 2020, when it was all done without much crowd and all of that kind of thing, I was quite pleased that the two finalists, Ronnie O'Sullivan, obviously, who had been there lots of times before, and Kyron Wilson, as it turned out, did return to the final. It would have been a bit of a pity if either of them had their only final when there was hardly anyone watching.
Yeah, I know.
And I thought it was quite nice that at least it wasn't a surprise, a one-time finalist who would never get the chance to do it again, sort of thing.
Yeah, I agree. It was the FA Cup final that year. It was played in front of half a Wembley crowd, but that's not what the final should be. And you do feel for those players who didn't have that that experience. It's not just the winning or losing; it's the life experience. But thankfully Ronnie's been there, God knows how many times. But is it 8 finals? I think it is. 7 wins, I think it is. But Kyron got his moment of glory a few years later, obviously. Yeah. No, I see what you mean there, actually, because, in many ways, that year, it was strange for a number of reasons, but the atmosphere, and especially that tense decider, it was 2 deciders in that tournament, I believe, in the semi-finals. But obviously the one that sticks most in the memory is Kyron versus Anthony McGill.
Yeah.
And I think just having it with such a sparse crowd, it kind of added to the eerie nature and it added to the tension almost.
I think there was no crowd, was there? There was no crowd until the final. It was actually empty for the semi-final.
Yeah, I think it was just like a few entourage people, but that's about it. So literally a handful of people. But I think that kind of, you might say it took away from the spectacle of Dave Hendon himself. He's said that it's the toughest match because it's over 3 days rather than a final over 2 days. But I don't know. We'll never know if it would have been better.
No.
But we'll never know. Yeah. But this year, got 4 new debutants, as I said, in
4 debutants, that's right, yes.
In the intro.
Interesting to see how they get on. I mean, we've got... who do we start with? Stan Moody, came through that thrilling match, 10-9. That looked, they both got a bit wobblier towards the end. I didn't see all of it. I didn't see much of it, really, but I was following the scores. And because I think his opponent would have also been a debutant, wouldn't it? One of the Chinese.
That's right, yeah. So we were guaranteed at least one.
But, so it'd be interesting to see how he gets on. Kyron Wilson, his opponent. I think... number 3 seed, but could have been worse. I don't know. I don't know how you would go into that being a debutant, being a Stan. No pressure on him, I suppose, first time.
Well, I think there's no pressure on him from outside. I think he puts a bit of pressure on himself.
I'm sure, yeah.
And I know he's only 19. He's a young man. He's still very inexperienced compared to compared to a former world champion, the current Masters champion.
Mm.
It's going to be a tough match. I do think Kyron will have enough
I
experience
think
and know how to do it.
Fail. There's a bit of rawness still that's always in those young players that haven't got the sort of ring craft and haven't had the the big time losses yet to learn from, and we're still 10 years of learning the ropes before you're an absolute proficient. It's I played local league snooker, and you see it much lower standards, but you see it exactly the same. That when we're drawn against one of the bottom division teams, you end up playing someone and you can see how much they haven't got that you have, albeit that I'm not a particularly brilliant player. I'm sort of all right, but you do see that disparity, but you do also see it with somebody like a Stan and somebody like Kyron. That you would expect Kyron to have enough answers, wouldn't you?
Yeah, over the years he's got enough experience, and Taylor Wilson himself has said that Kyron has scars now. He's lost some matches which have been painful defeats.
He's got really big scars that, absolutely.
Yeah. And I suppose
you could make the same argument for all of the debutants, I suppose.
It wasn't a debate, but it was a question came up recently, chatting with Rob Francis. And if we look at the Masters final, just as an example, you've got John Higgins versus Kyron Wilson. John Higgins, I think, if I'm not mistaken, has played more professional tour matches than any other player in history.
Probably,
so literally is the most experienced.
I wouldn't be surprised, yeah.
But Kyron Wilson is also quite experienced. However, he is not as experienced as John Higgins. So he is giving up experience. But at what point does that not matter?
Does that not matter? You're right. Somebody that's been in two world finals and has got lots of titles, it arguably doesn't. It's then who's in the better form on the day, isn't it? At that point, yeah.
But then if it's their first Masters final or their first major final, then, okay, maybe he goes... But this was his fourth major final. He's
not a rookie.
No, absolutely. And, yeah. And I think at what point will Stan reach the level where I suppose he has to win some majors, doesn't he? And that's probably a few years down the line, you'd say.
In the last 3 or 4 years that Kyron Wilson would be described like that, and he's, not exactly, he's not old, but he's not exactly young in the same way. He turned pro, I don't know exactly when, but when are we talking? 2010, 2012, something like that?
Yeah, well,
it's not yesterday.
Yeah. No, he's got at least a decade of experience under his belt. Yeah. No, I just thought is there a single threshold, or is it just a gradual? Eventually, you're just experienced now. So yeah,
I think that's it. Yeah.
No, I do fancy Kyron to come through against Stan. The one I think some of the debutants got tough draws. So here, Guo-Cheng, Ronnie O'Sullivan. Okay, that's not easy. And Anthony Kowalski, Mark Williams. I wouldn't be massively surprised if Mark threw in a stinker and Anthony managed to scrape it. I wouldn't bet on it, but it wouldn't surprise me. I think the one who has the biggest chance is Liam Pullen.
Is Liam, yeah. I did very well to get through that qualifying part of the draw. And, Chris Wakelin, it's one of those. He's like anyone that's in that sort of 13, 14, 15-ish bit of the seeds that you think, back in the 90s, they were almost making up the numbers where seeds were concerned. And you had some people like a Martin Clark or a Gary Wilkinson that might have been in the sort of bottom half, but they would have been a draw that you would have liked. It's not quite as much like that anymore, with no disrespect to those two gentlemen at all. But, on paper, I suppose, the lower seed is the better draw, but it doesn't always work out like that, does it? And, Chris Wakelin probably not much less experienced in a way than Wilson in terms of, and probably got more scars, against a Fulham that's got none at all.
I'm thinking, Chris Wakelin, he's won a ranked tournament this season. Did he make another final? I think he did, didn't he?
Might have.
But he made the semi-finals in that Saudi Arabia Masters event as well. So those two tournaments have done a lot of heavy lifting for his automatic qualification. And that's fine. That's, they all knew the situation going in. But there was a period of the season where Chris Wakeling kind of went missing. And I just think if there's going to be an upset, that would be the one. And I don't think it's close in terms of the debutants anyway. I would say that's easily the most likely. And
it's the most likely, I think. Yeah. I think I agree with you. Yeah.
I think he could do it because Liam, he showed determination. He beat some tough opponents on that route. Alfie Burden, 10-9, going down to the colours. That's a wily competitor that you're up against. That's a lot of know-how. He beat Amir Sarkosh, then he beat Tep Chaya.
Beat Tep Chaya, that was a good match, that as well, wasn't it?
That was, yeah. Nopan Senkan. So, actually, speaking of Liam Pullen and his run to Judgment Day.
He was a long way up on Nopan as well, wasn't he? Nopan pegged him back to something like 8-7 off the top of my head.
Yeah.
And Liam managed the last two frames, yeah.
He did well. And I think he was disappointed that he wasn't further ahead after the first session. And he probably should have been. But Nopan's a decent player. You can't relax against guys like this.
No, that's right.
But that's, I guess, just more experience for him. The big moment for me in his run, I don't know if you saw it, was against Amir Sarkosh. I think it was frame 14. And I forget if Amir Sarkosh was ahead, like 30 odd points. But he's in trouble. There's no easy way back to the balk area. And I don't know if I'm legally allowed to call him a cheater, but he plays a safety shot and, the cue ball happens to go directly into the pocket. And he kind of escapes the troublesome situation like that. And Liam used the word cheating when he was in the arena. And he called on the referee to, what can you do about this? Like, he's used...
You can't do anything about it. It's long been
it's
in
tough,
the 70s. Ray Reardon said, if you haven't got a shot, get the white in. Of course, they played a lot of billiards then and would never miss the in-off. It's
Exactly.
one of those things. If, the rules say an in-off is worth 4 points.
Yeah.
So going off. Ultimately, what are you going to do? How are you going to prove that it wasn't, the player, it's going for the thin clip, hits it a bit too thick and goes in off. I mean, you do run the risk that you don't get the in off and it juggles in the jaws and stays where it is, which is, it's one of those things. I think, take the 4 points. If you don't like the position you left, put him back in again. You won't do it next time.
Yeah. The comparison I made, it might be I think there is a link here, and it's a football comparison. It was Jose Mourinho said something like, there are no rules in football, there are just punishments and consequences for your actions. And it was if a player is running towards goal and you have a choice of letting him run or taking his legs out so he can't run anymore, what are you going to do? You take the yellow card or you take the red card. That's not against the rules. But
no, that's right.
Say that the
rules are the consequences. No, I mean, it's... I don't know, it's a difficult one. I was a referee on the amateur local circuit years ago. We used to have the old sort of seminar and discussions about rules, and I remember there was one, and John Street was obviously a very esteemed referee, very, very well-known referee in the Southwest, and he was there, and we were talked about the fact that you need a snooker on the pink, and I rolled the pink literally right over the pocket, and you play the shot to pop the pink and follow the white in, which means you need one more snooker, but the pink comes back. Now, it's clearly deliberate, but it was regarded as, the conclusion was, it was regarded as, in inverted commas, fair play.
Yeah.
Because there's no other way you're going to win, but you're still 6 points worth off, which is more of a problem when there's only the pink and black left and you need snookers than it would be when the scores are almost level and you go in off the pack like you were talking about. And I didn't see it, by the way, but decide that the punishment for that, in inverted commas, cheating is 4 points.
Yeah. No, I don't mean is it dark arts? Is it just being?
There'll never be an answer to that. That will be forever 50-50. Yeah. And there'll be a lot of people that would say publicly that it's awful, but if they were faced with the shot down the club, would damn well play it.
Absolutely. And it was John Pello was the ref. He said, I can't prove that he cheated.
It's not.
Just, players make mistakes. You can't prove intention. a lot of the time. So it's no, I thought it was, but
It's
he
an
didn't
interesting
let
one.
it bother
There's
him.
an interesting one as well that I thought was odd, that the Stan Moody and his opponent needed up to the pink, and he was on quite a big break. He was obviously going to get it. The colours were on their spots, and he put the brown, then the blue, then the pink, and didn't play position on the black because he didn't need to. And then he had a swipe at the black just for the hell of it, and the cue ball flew on the floor and went off. And referee, forget who it was, I think it was Marcel. Foul 7 to him and 58 or whatever it was to him and the frame. And as he was setting up the balls, or as the other guy had gone out, he came across to him, and Stan had obviously asked something, and he said, well, he'd already won the frame before that because he only needed the pink. And it was as if, like, I was a bit surprised that Stan wouldn't have been aware of that. I don't know what he thought might have happened, that the cue ball came back and he had the 7 points and another go. I mean, you must know that, surely.
Yeah, like as far as I'd always known, you can only score points once on the black.
Yeah.
And that's why players don't bother taking the final black, because, whatever. So, yeah, it seemed weird, and I can't think of the situation now, but I will look for it after and look at it again. But Kyron Wilson, instead of a respot, he loses the frame. I might look for that situation. I can't remember exactly what it is.
I remember something about that, yeah. I can't remember what, but you're right. Somebody that thought that it wasn't a respot or something. Kyron's done it a couple. Yeah, I do remember. Yeah, very, very vaguely. Yeah.
But the referee was right, and Kyron. Yeah. Fair play questioning it, but Kyron was wrong in that situation. Yeah. So the referee was right. But yeah, I might try and research that one because I'm interested to find out more about that. Yeah. Yeah. Any other matches which stand out for you in the first round?
Ooh. Well, I mean, lots. Oh, well, I tell you what, Zhang Anda was one of the players of the last few days, wasn't he? I mean, his scoring in that final qualifying round was just absolutely immense. He's come up against Mark Allen, been there 5 times before and hasn't won a game, which is a record he'll want to get rid of, I'm sure. Yeah. Famously, Luca Brissell was the same. I've got a feeling, not 100% sure, but I've got a feeling Barry Hawkins didn't win his first 5.
Oh.
I've got a feeling that that's true, and then has gone on, obviously, to have one of the enviable Crucible records, other than those that have been multiple champions and what have you. But he'll want to get rid of that, and the way he was playing, Mark Allen's going to have to be in good form. I don't know when they play, but I mean, it doesn't really matter. They're all match sharp enough, these qualifiers, even if they don't play till midweek, aren't they?
It seems that Mark Allen...
slight difference, perhaps, but...
I think, according to this, he is on... Mark Allen Zhang Anda is actually on the Saturday. It's the
he opens the tournament, doesn't he? Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And then they finish Sunday morning.
Yeah. Oh, Gary Wilson against Judd Trump.
I like that match.
Yeah, I like that match. Yeah. Jack Jones and Mark Selby, that could be a scoring fest, or it could be a long drawn out thing, or nothing, and probably nothing in between.
Yeah, and I think it was maybe Dave Hendon this morning on his... Well, I listened to it this morning, Snooker Scene, said that this could be the standout match, or the highlight match, or the blockbuster match, or something like that. And I'm going to disagree.
Okay.
I'm going to disagree, actually. I struggle to enjoy the way Jack Jones plays. And I know it's easy to just spout the stereotypes. Oh, he's boring, he's slow. But it's more than that. I'm not a sucker for flair players. For example, Peng Zhu is one of the most entertaining players on the tour for me. I just love the way he plays. I don't know why, but he's not a flair player. He's not flashy. He's not potting them off the lampshades. But Jack Jones matches, for me, I can't remember the last time I enjoyed one. And Mark Selby, I'm a massive Mark Selby fan. I think he's fantastic for the sport. Easily one of the greatest players of all time. But he's not, in terms of ranking events, he hasn't been in fantastic form. I think it's only one victory in ranking events since he won the UK Championship. So he's kind of fallen off a cliff. But you can never really discount him because he's proven so many times what he's capable of.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
He is a Crucible monster. Is that a...
It's probably not a bad word for it. Yeah.
But monster
Matthew
in a good
Stevens
way.
and Barry Hawkins
Yeah.
could be a close one on paper, at least, I think. And again, that'll end up being 10-3 one way or the other. Yeah, but that's the way these things go. Zhao Dudong and Zhao Yulong. That's the closest to people having the same name probably since Sidney Smith and Willie Smith met in the first round in 1936. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, Zhao Yulong,
which itself was a very good match with Willie Smith, I think, missing the last red on 92, which would have been only the second century ever in the World Championship.
Which year?
1936.
90 years ago.
15-10 down and won the last 6 frames to win 16-15. Anyway, that's not many of your listeners will remember that one. I don't. I have to say, I don't remember it. But happen to know it. Yeah, not know it. Know where to find it written down. That's not just come off Rob Walker like out of my head.
Off the top of your head.
Gilbert and Ding is another one. Ding, because Ding has struggled in the first round of late. Only got through the first round last year and then got steamrolled by Luca in that incredible first session of that game. One of the best atmospheres of pure appreciation of brilliant snooker that I think I've ever been. I was in for that, there are many. You've got the finals and the climaxes of some close matches, some of the and semis between Hendry and O'Sullivan, and some of those that go all the way and are right up to the wire. But if you take those out, that's one of the best atmospheres for a not particularly on paper wild session. First session of a best of 25 on a Tuesday morning. I don't know if it was a Tuesday morning, but one of those where you think actually nerve tingling just being there. Another one was when, and again one-sided, ridiculous to think that somebody that wins a match so comfortably was when Robertson beat, I think Wu Yizler, wasn't it, made his pair of 1-4-6s in that session right at the end, made 2 1-4-6s in 3 frames, and it was an extraordinary atmosphere of just complete appreciation purely of the snooker. It didn't matter which player it was. It wasn't your O'Sullivan fans or your any particular fans. It was just all of the fans of snooker in there. Didn't matter who they were supporting. It was just absolute. This is one of the best sessions of snooker I've ever seen, and Luca delivered that last year. And shame not to see him this year, really. But Luca's Luca, isn't he?
Yeah, and I don't know if it exactly works like this, but if we were to substitute his conqueror, Jack Jones, with Luca, what a first round match that would be. Mark Selby, Luca Brissell. Oh, what could have been a repeat of the final, of course. But Luca's he's so unpredictable. He's so unpredictable, but that's kind of why he's fun to watch. I think he is good for snooker. We need players like him.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Having said that, Jack Jones was very, very good in that session.
He was. Yeah, he played good snooker. And
4
he won
centuries, was it 5? Possibly 4 at least, I think.
Well, he's made a few this season. Was it this year or last year? He made 30 in the Championship League or something.
Yeah, 5 centuries in that match against Luca. And
but that's the difference there. So Zhang Anda got a lot of praise for making 5 centuries. I didn't know that Jack Jones had made 5 centuries. Why not? Maybe it's my fault, but maybe it just doesn't get as much.
And it was a 10-5. Somebody that's blitzed you 10-2 with 5 centuries. That is going to be frame after frame after frame. I mean, it's here in front of me, but I can't be bothered to actually count it all up and look. But when it gets to 5-4, 5-4, or 7-5. You haven't got that same feeling of one-sidedness, which is probably why Zhang Anda's one is, because all you saw was centuries there, whereas he made 5, but, Luca Brissell won 5 frames, and he won another 5 without centuries, so it wasn't quite the...
When I hear the stat that Luca Brissell made his first century break of the season...
Yeah, I heard that on commentary. That was quite unbelievable, wasn't it?
Incredible. Yeah. How is that possible?
Quite unbelievable. Yeah,
I just couldn't believe it. And Michael Holt said on his social media this morning that in the whole season he made 9 century breaks, and his word was pathetic. And
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
He's had a few moments here and there, but
on the whole, it was pretty. Yeah.
Yeah, and when it came up against Zhou Yulong, good player, clearly capable of scoring, made a final, the English Open final actually, yeah. So he's clearly a solid player, and you need to score, you need to win frames in one visit. And if you're not, it's not a true barometer, it's not concrete evidence, but if you're scoring 9 centuries in a season, maybe there's something amiss with your scoring. And for a player like Michael Holt,
yeah, no, absolutely.
That's got to be tough for him. And but Zhou Yulong, you mentioned there that match against Zhou Gudong, that's one of the highlights as well. And I had a controversial opinion about Zhou Gudong last season during the World Championship. I thought his match against John Higgins was fantastic. It was 13-11, John Higgins.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought it was one of the best matches of the season. It was absolutely enthralling from start to finish, and it kind of got buried by the quarterfinal against Mark Williams. And I remember I said to someone, well, if you take away the star power, the history of rivalry, the fact that it went down to the final frame and that there was good snooker, then it wasn't that good. So take away all the good factors and suddenly it's not so good anymore.
Well,
and I realised what I said was it was kind of ridiculous what I said there, but I was trying to give the right amount of, I think the kids say, to give the flowers to John Higgins, Zhou Gudong, because it was a fantastic match. And he's a multiple time ranking event winner now. Can he go on a run? He can, of course he can.
Of course he can. But it's the same. It's the same with every player down the line that you've had. That's won a bit. Will they become a Mark Selby and win millions, or will they become somebody that wins those two? That was their wonderful season of form that they're never going to repeat, and then they gradually fall away, and you never hear from them again. And both kinds of player exist, and will continue to.
That's the joy of sport, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
There's some things you can't predict, and there's no way of doing it with any kind of tangible evidence.
I mean, if you could predict it, you wouldn't bother playing, would you? If you were trying to work out who was the best player, you wouldn't bother playing it because you already know who's the best player.
Yeah.
It's not about who's the best player, it's about who's the best player on the day.
Yeah, it's not played on paper, it's...
Yeah.
So, before we move on to final prediction, who's going to win the tournament, there is kind of 2 questions that are kind of related, but they are different. The first one is, who do you think will be the underdog who has a deep run? And by deep run, I will qualify as saying the quarterfinals or later. And also, if you had to pick one upset, I know we've discussed some of those, but if you had to pick one upset in the first round, which match would you say where the seed will lose? We'll say that's an upset.
Where a seed will lose, you can call that an upset. Oh, I don't know. I think Dave Gilbert against Ding Junhui would be the one I would pick that has the best chance of happening, but I mean, who knows? I mean, you've got some of those players that are, we all know that nowadays the 17 downwards bracket, the 17 to 50-ish bracket, if results during the season had gone another way, they could end up being in the top 16. If Hussein Fafai had won an event somewhere, he could be virtually top 16, and here he is as a qualifier, and he's suddenly an underdog against Si Jiahui. And you think, well, actually, there's not much between the seed and the underdog there.
Yeah,
really.
I agree.
And that happens more and more this year. There are fewer genuine surprises.
No, I would agree. That's a good example, actually, because how he is still in the top 16, I will never know. It must be the Saudi Arabia tournament that's carrying the weight for his top 16 ranking, because I think he made before the quarters.
Has his Crucible semi is just about only coming off now, isn't it?
20. That was 20.
Because that was 23, so that will be...
So
will that already have gone off, won't it? No, so it's not that. No, that's right. You're right.
But he made a couple of finals. I think he made the German Masters final, I think.
Possibly. Yeah.
And I think he made another one which he lost, one of the events in China. But since then, he's kind of like nothing really. He's kind of the forgotten man of. I don't like.
So I can see Hossein. I could see Hossein winning that.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, absolutely. If I had to bet on one, I wouldn't. But if I did, that would be one of them. I do think Dave Gilbert will beat Ding Junhui. I do think that. And in terms of an upset, which I think Gary Wilson against Judd Trump, I think Gary's got a really good chance.
Yes, I think he has.
Coming through that match against Schuster will give him okay, he nearly let it slip.
He won't say it. He won't say it.
He will never say. No, he's very, very. It's not even self-deprecating. It's just he's very downbeat on his own ability. It's like, mate, you're a multiple-time ranking event winner. Like, you're really good when you get going. I'd love to see him play with more confidence.
He'll remember the one simple pink he missed off its spot rather than the 3 century breaks he had either side of it. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And okay, that's who he is, but he's so dangerous. If he's playing well, I think he can give Judd Trump a few problems.
Yeah.
And I would say for me, that's one of the matches I'll definitely, not just in terms of quality, because I think they're both of them are fantastic players, but I'm going to keep my eye on an upset in that match. I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, I'm going to just look when that match happens, actually. I've got it here. That is on Tuesday. They play Tuesday morning and then Tuesday evening. So it's a 1-day match.
Oh, okay, right.
So that's still a few days away. And when is Ronnie O'Sullivan? So now that I'm thinking about the Judd Trump factor, so Ronnie O'Sullivan is playing on the Tuesday. I know they try and fix the draw, give him special treatment, so that he doesn't have to spend so long in the UK. Someone disagrees with me.
He disagrees with snooker. It's as simple as that. Sorry about that.
Who's going to win? Who's
going to win? So that's
who will lift the trophy?
If I had to pick one name, who's going to win? I'm just looking at the names just to find a bit of inspiration to give you an answer.
It's not easy.
I mean, that's how it goes, isn't it? I mean, on paper, can you think of anyone who would be odds on to beat Zhao? But somehow, I don't think he's going to do it. It's a little bit in the back of my head that says that the Crucible curse is still going to strike. And especially now there's another 20 years Crucible assured.
We've got to keep that narrative
perhaps
going.
It will. It's run for 50 years. How many different winners have we had? 30-ish, I guess. 25 or 30-ish.
Well, it's only 4 players.
So I'm going to pick the name, because you asked to pick a name. So I'm going to pick a name. And I am going to go with Selby.
Mark Selby. He hasn't got much history at the Crucible, though, has he?
For no particular reason, to be honest with you.
Well, it is wide open. It's a tough question to really give a...
Yeah.
Even for, snooker nerds like us, it's hard to give an educated answer, isn't it?
It is,
because it is kind of wide open. You could say anyone. It could be Mark, it could be Neil Robertson. Mark Allen's good enough to win it when he plays well. I think we'll see the curse put to rest this season.
Do you?
I do. I think he...
I mean, to be honest with you, and we've had this conversation with various people over the last few weeks, is there anybody who you would expect going into the match to probably beat him? The answer is no, there isn't anyone.
To expect, no. Obviously, there are those who can. And if I had to say, I would say... I think you're onto something there. I think Mark Selby, over a 3-session match, could hang with him in terms of match play.
And it would be a 4-session match because they would only meet in the final.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
Yeah, because Selby's in the bottom half. Yeah.
Well, that'd be a good final though.
It would. Yeah.
And I think so Mark Selby, he could hang with Zhao Xintong over a marathon match like that. But we'll find out. Yeah, so the finals on the 3rd and 4th of May. Will you be there?
I will be there, yes. I will be there on the 4th of May.
Okay. I'll see you there.
I'll see you there, yeah.
I'm excited. I'm really excited. Yeah, no, it's a wonderful time of year. I'm almost sad at the same time because I know that after that, main tour snooker is off the books for at least a few weeks, months. I know we have Q Score, we have the seniors. I'm not a massive fan of the seniors, and I'm not a fan of it being at the Crucible, if I'm honest. But going to miss it once it's gone for a few months. So
Yeah, that's right. But it'll soon be back into full swing again.
it will.
We don't have the 6 month sabbatical that we used to have anymore.
Yeah, and don't worry, that is a good thing. We can't be ungrateful for the
exactly.
for the amount of snooker we have these days, especially when you look at 20 years ago, 15 years ago, even. It's those are dark times, but yeah, it's the sport's in a good place, and I think this news that the World Championship will stay at the Crucible, it's positive in more than just that event. It means more for the sport overall. I think there is another layer to that news. So, yeah. Yes. Anyway, right. I won't keep you, Chris. Thank you for your time. For those who are interested in maybe looking at the almanac, how would they?
Yes. Have you got a way of putting an email address up somewhere?
Yeah, I can put an email address in the show notes. So if you're interested in picking up the 50th anniversary edition of the almanac, and that's a nice half century, so that's a good one to get. So I'll put the email in the show notes, and I hope you enjoy the first few rounds.
Yeah, it should be cracking. It's and it's spring weather, and the days are getting longer, and it's you get warm evenings in Sheffield where even if you haven't got a ticket, you can walk along through Tudor Square, and it's sort of warm. It doesn't get dark till eight, slightly later up north than where I am, and it doesn't get dark till 8 o'clock-ish, and there's people having a few beers, watching the snooker on the big screen, even if you're not in there, and it's got that kind of that whole kind of vibe is infused through the city, and
it's like a music festival almost, but
it almost is. It almost is a very long music festival, but it is, and it's there. You can't walk through the city without being hit by snooker, basically.
Yeah, not in a Quinton hand way, but yeah,
not in a Quinton hand way.
No, in a cultural, in a loving way. Yeah.
Yes.
Chris, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate your
opinions,
and I'll see you.
We'll see who's most right or least wrong.
Well, we'll see. But I'll see you in the graduate.
Will do. See you there.
Thanks, Chris. See you.
Take care. Enjoy.